Welcome back to another episode of, Standing Up with Soul Writer. This is Jenna O'Malley, your soul writer, author of sci-fi fantasy with dashes of romance and nerdy references. Outside of the raw stories my characters weave through time, I help other writers, set their writing to Phoenix mode. So let's go ahead and see how I'm taking all of that behind me. 5 OneNote files worth of stuff and combine it back into OneNote or Notion. Which did I decide to go with in the long run, and why? Let's go ahead and wrap up this 2-part series. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, please go check it out and kick Self-Sabotage's butt right along with me. Let's rock it. Welcome on back, everybody. So kind of ignore the mess that is my hair. You guys are going anyway. The house is slowly but surely starting to get packed up in some ways for the move coming in a couple of months. And this wall is one of the things that will have to be taken down for. A reminder, it's just Fadeless brand bulletin board paper that I'm using the back side of. If you're wondering exactly what it's the back of, it's just what I used for my Kanban board reversed. And then Scotch brand blue painter's tape for the tape. So I went ahead and I put the main series up top with all of its seasons. We'll put it that way. And then I put the 2 other spin-off universes down below. What I'm going to go ahead and do is make probably one big OneNote file. Yes, I'm sticking with what I know, okay? I'm going to go ahead and stick with one big OneNote file and just divide up my tabs a little bit better within that one file. So what does that mean? This first box here, the first 5 books, are all going to go ahead under one binder tab, which is cool because all 5 of them are written. And yes, cover reveal came out along with the first 8 chapters of book 1's audio being free to you guys now here on YouTube and on Ream. So go check that out. Yes, if you want above the first 8 chapters, you're going to have to go subscribe to the Ream. Now, this is the series portion that's set in late 1600s. We go about 300 years-ish in the future to the Legacy. Yeah, the kids series. So they're going to get their own tab. You've met some of these characters in books 3 through 5 already as far as the kids go. But there's many of them like Katrina who's not even born until 1920. So you have met her cousin Iona, and you'll meet her cousin or her brother Elias in books 3 through 5. But you won't actually meet her until much later. And then there's the prequel. This is the story that started it all. So what exactly is the story that started it all? I'm going to go ahead and link the documentary that inspired the actual backstory to my counsel. So for those of you who do not know, I am an English lit major. I love teaching Shakespeare, and oh my God, did he butcher Cleopatra and Mark Antony's stories and Julius Caesar's stories and his not so historically accurate history plays. And as Rochelle tells Ian in book 2, Bound by Oath and Heart, I think it's Rochelle says this. Is it Rochelle or is it Nefertiti? One of the 2. Either mom or daughter says it, but Cleopatra's story is really messed up, especially when a man gets a hold of it and tells it, because they just focus about her being so pretty. They don't talk about the living goddess waging war with inside of her. And that's kind of where you're anything, switchy, not to make you dizzy, sorry there. That's kind of where this story comes into play. Arsinoe is Cleopatra's sister. She was kind of a pharaoh of the people. She was the people's pick after their dad Ptolemy was no longer in power, and Cleopatra was like, I don't care, I want to be Miss Popular. It should be me, not Arsinoe. So if you're wondering where the original name of my series came from, it was in honor of the sister that Cleopatra had her boyfriend unalive in the Artemisia in Ephesus. If you've read book 1 and 2 of my series, those places mean things. Yes, because that's where the alliance was started. When a certain somebody was unalived by her brother, she became the mother of all vampires to exact revenge. And now we pick up with the story with her great granddaughter / great grandniece. So I'm probably going to keep all of those book series in their own individual binder tabs. The side quests are stories mostly about secondary characters and other characters that don't exactly fit anywhere into Season 1, Season 2, or the prequel. For example, over here, here's a book I've been working on for a while through my newsletter, Arya and the Winged Ones. You get a lot of time with Arya, and you eventually get a lot of time with Gorgor, but you don't get much time with the other Winged Ones. And a lot of people told me when we were originally reading through books 1 and 2 before they went through rebrand that a lot of people loved reading because they adored the Winged Ones. So what you're getting here is a compilation of short stories. Now I will go ahead and make that part of a tab of its own within a tab, and I'll show you what I mean when we get to the computer end of things. But I have a couple of tales like that. We also have the origin tales, and then stuff I can't show you up close because it's spoilers. So yes, the World Atlas one I can show you. Like, this is just what happens to them during World War I and World War II that doesn't exactly fit into other tales I can't really tell you yet because it's spoilers for a thing. Anyway, yeah, it's this whole plot wall that made me realize how meta my story is. Again, check part 1 if you want to see how meta. So then we have the 2 spin-off series. They will probably each get their own tab. This is a trilogy, Vitae Atlantica. It's a lit RPG, urban fantasy romance, basically, at this point. It's been a couple of different labels, but it's basically lit RPG meets a couple of different overlays of romance because there's small town involvement. It all takes place here in the Maryland area. Doesn't go too much further north than PA, doesn't go too much further south than Virginia. It stays pretty tight to the area I grew up in. This has been a fun series to write. I wrote The Crusaders of Luxander Shoals 2 years ago during NaNoWriMo, and the first couple of chapters to that are up on my Ream. And then the Captains of Zenith Falls is book 2 I'll be writing during this NaNoWriMo. You've already met Elena. We're going to have to vote on her name. I don't know which one I want to keep it, but you'll learn a little bit more about her in my Plan With Me lives that are coming up later in October. And then in a year or so, I'll write The Commanders of Eloisa Cliffs, and that's going to be the final book. This is all about a set of friends, Andy, Micah, and Craig, who are all high school best friends, and it's kind of what happens to them as video game players as a result of shenanigans that happen in series, my original series. During season 2, they find a way to bring magic back circa 2015, and Vitae Atlantica is what the humans interpret that paranormal, celestial, immortal event to be in their world. It's kind of what they see. 2 sides of the same coin, and never intended to write that, but well, I figured I explained to you not only where the hunters come from, but also what happens when the hunters is gone, so I might as well explain a human world without hunters, but with magic, is kind of where all that came about. Now to the future. This is a story that was inspired by doing flash fiction, actually, on a couple of different other authortubers' channels, including Mama Maggie. I think I even wrote some of this while doing some of your early Tuesday morning things last year. This was my NaNoWriMo project with Amber and Varian. This takes place way, 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 way in the future. And I already know all the titles to all the books. I've only written one, The Children of Moondust, and I will start writing The Children of Starlight next. But this series in and of itself could have upwards of 12 titles, so it definitely needs its own tab in that OneNote file. How am I dividing these files up, though, to where I can keep 5 or 6 things super duper organized virtually, so that way I can move this plot wall seamlessly? Let's go ahead to the computer. So, welcome to a blank OneNote. We're going to go to File, and we're going to New. Going to give it Meta World Theme Connections Bag of Holding. I'm not a nerd at all. So, name it whatever you want. Create notebook. Your notebook has been created. I do not want to share it with people right now. I know that I want to have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Yes, 6 sections or tabs. 3, 4, 5. Hey, look, it automatically gave me a rainbow. That makes me very, very happy. I'm going to switch the names around here. So we're going to call this the Myrna Annal Season 1. And then I'm going to go ahead and change each of the section tab names by right-clicking on them and renaming them. The Myrna Annal Season 2, Section 3. Hello, Drina. The Myrna Annals. I want to make that look good. Pre what? Prequels. And then section 4, rename the Myrna Annals side quests. I'm actually glad that that's that color. Green. Ooh. Meow. Drina. Meow. Kitty cat break. And yes, I realize now I did make too many. I claim not to math good because dyscalculia, and that's okay. So we're going to go with, let's go in chronological order here. Soul Raider, that would be Vitae Elantica, bam. And then rename. Actually, I have things to put up here. Ooh, okay. So it would not let me use a colon in there. That's what stopped me. I did Vitae Elantica colon, and it wouldn't take it. Yes, there's a spinoff within a spinoff. Billionaire romance is in my future somehow. Anyway, they're just video game tycoons. And then, of course, Regolith's Relics. I do have 1 or 2 super duper secret other projects. I do plan on writing a meta book. It's like the last fiction book I'll ever write. It's just simply called Day Our Author Died. It'll be the last fiction book I ever write at the end of my career. It's years away. And then, of course, there's Unschooling Soul Writer. I plan on writing a memoir one day about my time as a K-12 English teacher. So I don't have some of these up on the board where you could see them, and I didn't talk about them exactly in the previous walkthrough. The bosses, The Day Our Author Died, and Unschooling Soul Writer are up there, but not. Bosses and The Day Our Author Died are just literally pieces of taped paper in the lower right-hand corner. Unschooling Soul Writer is in a what I call a scratch book all by itself. I will start uploading notes into that and give you an examples of how I'll do that another day. We, however, are in interest of talking about one thing called Vitae Langica. What is Vitae Langica? Most of you are used to hearing me talk about vampires and things. This is the lit RPG that runs parallel to the season 2 Myrna Annals. Like, this is what happens in the human world. To them, the return of magic looks like the worlds between video games splitting. In reality, what it is the reality between this and the virtual reality they participate in is splitting, because in the Myrna Annals you have astral mages that are doing astral magic and messing with the realms. Hello, Neftiri. Hello, Frey, and of course other characters you have yet to meet. Oh boy, watch out for Katrina. Anyway, I keep bringing her up. Maybe that's the first of the legacy of the next generation Suntroll was going to have to draw instead of her big brother after all. Anyway, so this would be one whole quote binder. That's what OneNote is kind of based on thematically. Each one of these colored tabs is akin to a tab in a binder or in a planner. Same thought process, right? Now, like a binder or a pan or a planner, off to the right hand side you have pages, right? Now I will take and make each page about each book at this point and just organize my notes clearer, I think, because what I used to have was one binder per book, and I would just make a copy for a new book whenever I had to add in another tab for and update stuff. But I'm wondering if it would just be more seamless for me to take some notes out of the Heart Breathings library. Thank you, Sarah Cannon, for making this free for us. Go ahead and check the links in the box below for this checklist. I'm going to use her series Bible checklist to get the basics in here. Now that I realize how overarching and sprawling and metacognitive this is going to get, I do like that I'm going to be able to link to files and things later on. And I'll come back and show you this as I build it, of course. But today, what I wanted to show you was that I will come back and copy in a lot of my data for book 1 with the page here. But if I wanted to rename untitled page by right-clicking it and renaming it like we did earlier normally is what works. You can also click here in the upper left-hand part of the page, highlight it, and start typing over it. So the first book was called The Crusaders of Alexander Shoals. They're based on an actual place here in Maryland where we have a set of shoals in the Chesapeake Bay area, named also for Luke Paper Mill, which is located out in Western Port, Maryland, that produces a large amount of paper used up and down the East Coast. So, yes, the author made a paper joke. Anyway, I will just copy and paste any files I need as far as character sheets go into there, and any location notes, outline notes, and things. But we're looking at book 2. I've been talking about wanting to write this book now and been putting it off since we moved here. I've been trying to write this now since April Camp Nano and July Camp Nano, and ended up choosing to do other stuff instead. We're going to actually write this book during NaNoWriMo before we move, because gosh darn it, I will write a book in this apartment, be it the last thing I do as we're moving. I will. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on the second untitled page here and rename it the Captains of Xena Falls. And then I will go ahead and add the page for the third book. Yes, title reveals are today. The Commanders of Aloysia Cliffs. So these actually all kind of relate to places in Maryland. The Captains of Xena Falls, there's going to be a huge battle out in Western Maryland at Swallow Falls State Park. If you've never seen pictures of, you are welcome. Go and look how the Youghiogheny River really, really does meander its way down to the Chesapeake in the most beautiful of ways, in my opinion. So that is inspired by that location. And then the Commanders of Aloysia Cliffs is inspired by the Lover's Leap overlook cliffs there on Route 40 outside of Corriganville in Cumberland, Maryland. So that will have a huge battle happen in there one day. So the Shoals introduces you to the Bay Area, and then of course you fall in love with the Appalachian area in the Shoals book, and then in the Falls book you spend a lot of time in the Chesapeake watershed is the thought process. So you got to see all of the parts of the state's topography last time, and this time we're going to follow the rivers. So there are 2 characters that I'm going to add notes in here for right off the bat. I know that I have notes for them in another file. So let me go ahead and take a moment and copy and paste those over for us. I'm going to save with a Control S as in Sam on my keyboard. I would like to open second novel world series building if it'll let me. I upgraded this file, so it might, it took some of my notes out. I'm not happy about that, but did it save my character? Yes, it did. Awesome. It has some of my bases for my character sheets in here. Oh, wow, it has most of Micah's still. Thank goodness. So we're going to reintroduce ourselves to Micah Gregorio, a.k.a. Tuxedo Starlight. He also goes by Tuxedo Starbright. Yes, there's 90s names in there that his name makes fun of. If I can click the correct thing. File. Open. Meta. I'm going to go to my Vitae tab, my page for Captains of Zenith Falls, and with the Control V as in victory, yay, it pasted for me. That's how you remember it's paste, because it actually pasted and it all stayed together. See, even Drina's cheering with us. Right, Drina? So I have not 100% decided. I have him as Tuxedo Star Light. There is a reason. So if you follow the anime Sailor Moon, you know who Tuxedo Kamen is, and you know who the Sailor Starlights are. So Micah's character is kind of a Bishonen instead of Bishouju, magical boy, kind of, and he plays on all of those tropes of I am the knight in shining armor paladin, and he's a typical fanboy about it in game. So outside of the game Vitae, which is an MMORPG they all play together, he is Micah Gregorio, and he is kind of your stereotypical mid-Atlantic kid, European mutt in America is my note here. He's shorter than Craig, taller than Andy, slimmer than Craig, heavier than Andy. Do you see that overlap? It is purposeful for a reason. He is literally metaphorically the middle line between them. So in game, he is Tuxedo Starlight. Where he lives or where his journey started in the game is based on, like with all the other characters, how did he roll his first character at the beginning of the game? Anyone who has ever played any kind of modern day video game or tabletop game is kind of familiar with this. And he chose to be a magical person, magical boys and girls a la Sailor Moon, card captors, and whatnot. In game, he kind of does look like himself. He traded his light brown hair for dark blonde, basically. Not, a matter of a handful of shades of color if you were to put it on a color dye wheel for hair. And his favorite weapon is called the Sword of Selene. It's an inside joke in book 1 that is in the opening chapter that the goddess Selene is the closest to being with his goddess of love. So the goddess Selene in this game looks very much like Sailor Venus, if you know that reference in Sailor Moon. And that's the joke, is he is a Sailor Venus fanboy, basically. Not copywriting, but giving you a comparison here. He is a stereotypical Sailor Moon fanboy. And he is really, truly a good-hearted guy. Really, genuinely, truly is a good-hearted guy. Now, we need to make sure we add in another character here because It's not a story without the other POV. I'm going to go open the file to the second world, and I'm going to click the tab for, I'm really sure not reboot. If you watch Toonami and Cartoon Networks, you'll get this. Reboot. Anyway, highlight, Control C for copy, open, and click over to Meta World theme. We're going to make sure we're in Vitae Atlantica, the captain of Zenith Falls, and then I'm going to click where I wanted to, Control V for victory, paste. Yes, perfect. Went exactly where I needed to, and I never really truly flushed her character sheet out when I wrote book one, and I kind of did this on purpose, knowing I wanted to build this character with all of you. So I believe in what I call astrological character creation, hence the title of our next get together. I'm going to actually walk you through how deciding somebody's birthday can dictate exactly who they are simply by using basic astrology. I'll see you here in a little bit. This part 2 suddenly became a part 3. I think you're all up for it though, right? I can't wait to keep writing this with you, and I can't wait to see how it ends up in the end. There is going to be a vote on her name going on my community tab here soon. So please do pay a visit over to my community tab for the 2 polls that are going on there now, apparently. And above all, take care of yourself. Stop believing the lies other people tell you. You're worth it. Bye.